topical issue. Why it was difficult for truth to break through in the past. I'm going to talk about things that happened in the past. We've been looking at books, be they religious. We've been looking at facts in life that seem so obvious, but they appeared not to have been noticed throughout the millennia. What could have been happening to people so that such are things that you can discover with a lot of ease? Hiding of material, changing of whatever is written, changing of history, and all those things could not be noticed with ease. Why is it that we are able to notice these things now with ease? And why is it difficult for people, even after noticing, to talk about? I'm going to talk about the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages? Yeah, the Dark Ages of Christianity. I'm going to talk about the uprising of new religions. I'm going to talk about what happened in our history to make us not talk the truth, to make us fear touching history, to make us fear touching the truth. With the beginning of religions historically in mankind, there were people who were in charge of certain gods, starting from the Egyptian times. And if you are seen to be talking against what he was giving as godly truth, there were dire punishments. So people did not talk, not because they didn't see the truth. They did not talk because they feared the consequences. Yes, they feared the consequences. Going by history, they say that was it Vasco da Gama or Christopher Columbus? When they were sailing across the world, they saw something that appeared like an unidentified flying object crashing into the sea. He gave its description, but was quickly reminded that if he had not done something great for the nation, he would have been put to death, because he was supposed to have been talking of the Jewish menorah, those lines that are there, and those who are evil by that time to talk about. It meant you are a wizard. But because of what he had done, he was forgiven, they were hidden. I don't know how true that one is. Those who come from there can be able to tell. These were the times when people set their rules. People decided on what was right, what was not right. For instance, for us Christians, it's interesting that you read a Bible and you read versions that keep changing and you never get to notice. You're only told this is this edition, this is that edition, but with each edition, some truth is being erased. It's called for ease of understanding. But it is for ease of brainwashing. Beginning at the beginning of times, it was illegal for a person to own the Bible, and the Bibles had many books. It was illegal. So eventually with time, it was only the priests who were to have the Bible. If you are found with a Bible, it was a punishable offense. It could even involve being punished by death. So you never read anything. Things were read to you, and you are told that is the ultimate truth. There's no other truth but this truth. And yes, you had to agree with that truth of whatever you did not know. One man had the truth in his hands, and the rest had the truth from his words. As time went by, people started being licensed to have this dangerous book. It was like a gun. It was a dangerous book without proper people interpreting in relation to what has been told to them, not interpreting the way they saw it, the way they were told. And so it went on. Remember things like the Spanish Inquisition? Many of the torture methods that are used nowadays came from those dark ages. You will be tortured to confess, even what you had not done, and after that, you would be burnt alive. You would be cut by saw alive. And there are so many other torture things. Remember the other time I was talking of when the Romans had sports, they used to call them games. There was a time when criminals and Christians were part of the show. Crucify the Christians, they were part of the criminals, and all those things. It came also time when now in society you had to say uniform things. Talking something that was against what was thought to be the truth would end your life. So people would see everything, but they would never talk about anything. You had to be a good religious person. So did it happen when Islam began also. You had to confess it. Failure to confess it, you are put to death. But if you confessed it and did it the way it was put, then you are a good man. In fact, even the slaves, there was the slave trade that you were talking about that Roger Whittaker sang about. People would be captured from inland East Africa, from Congo, from all those places. And mostly it was done by people of the Arab origin and some of the indigenous people. That's why Kiswahili was able to spread far into Congo. They have the Kingwana dialect there. And when these people were captured, I told you from the beginning, religion never forbids slavery. Don't be cheated by anybody. It is the conviction of Jesus in the West that convicted the people to feel that slave trade and slavery was evil. And out of that, they fought hard to have those laws repealed, and now slaves to be treated like human beings, not animals that they were being treated like at that time. But also with that, it came problems. So now, for slaves who wanted to get softer treatment, if it was East Africa, you had to convert to Islam. Failure to which you would be treated in any way, or sometimes you could be killed. But now if you are converted, you will still be a slave, but with many privileges than the other slaves. Because you are brother and sister in religion. And it went with many other things. It came with forbidding of religion. If you are in this religion and you are converted in the other religion, you will get an instant death sentence. And sometimes the death sentences were by torture, crucifying, burning at the stake, being burnt alive, and many other torture methods. So people would not talk about what they saw. There are stories of people like Giovanni Bruno, who was a priest himself, and he ended up burning at the stake for what the scientists are now telling and agreeing, concurring with what he had said, that he knew the truth. But he died for the truth. Because that time, that truth was supposed to be against that truth. The priests, everybody, other people, the community sees it this way. But you are seeing it differently. So, that one was going against the word. And you had to be put to death. In fact, that one people used to be called and they are told, anybody who doesn't. So if it's stoning, everybody will have to throw a stone at you to keep themselves clean. And there are other torture methods. Like you would be put in a cage on a tree, a metal cage. And you are left on that cage, in that cage. You die of hunger. And people pass by, they hear you calling, they hear you crying, they hear you screaming, they hear you until the day you die. But when you die, they don't remove you from that cage. You decay in that cage. So people would pass by, they smell the way you stink when you are decomposing until the bones are left. And the bones were not removed again. They'll be there to be a reminder. You remember so and so? He went against the grain. Dare go against the grain. That is what will happen to you. Sometimes you had to be indoctrinated by force, by all forms of torture. In that now you will go singing and be the ambassador of what you don't believe in. So you will be tortured, your family will be tortured, but mostly they will concentrate on you. And there was always a threat of elimination of the family. So whatever you had started saying was not true. You would be the person who would go spreading that message. And because everybody feared of what would happen if they did not, then they had to believe. And you were set as a good example. So and so did not go by what was there, that's not the truth. But now see, he's the one giving the truth. And you would give the truth. In quotes. Some were exiled from their land. Your behavior, your beliefs are not in line with what is needed here. So, you have two options. We either kill you, torture you, finish you here, or go to any other place. You don't belong here. There is the history of a daughter of the one who began Christianity, Constantine. And Constantine wanted to match her with all the nobles in the place, and then she went with the first one, she could not match. She was married to another one, she could not match. She was married to another one, and eventually she was excommunicated and put in exile because she was ashamed. To the one who was beginning that, she was termed a prostitute, but it was not out of her own making. And she was exiled. So when you find the liberties that are there, though even at such a time there are people who are facing death threats because they spoke the truth, you have to thank God that we can have a platform. People can have a platform either through YouTube or other places that they can be able to express what is true with evidence than the truth that is thought to exist. That is why you may wonder, why is it that things that appear so obvious, language that is so clear, explanations that even a child can be able to interpret, and knowledges, because as I've been talking to you, there's nothing new I've introduced. Have I? If I have, please tell me. All the materials there. All the history there. Everything that people now see radical, everything that I've talked about is true and supported by already existing materials, properly printed and properly covered books. Very beautiful. You talk of dreamers, you have them. You talk of Ascension of Isaiah, you have them. Talk about who did we call Herod? It is there. Talk about everything. It's only now that people have started changing to change their history because they realize that it's coming out fast, and so they want to change whatever is happening. There's a move to change history, but it will not change much because people have discovered there is the truth. That's why many people in every religion, I'm not only talking about Christianity, no. I'm not talking about certain cults only, no. When you introduced, there are teachings you have to undergo. There are doctrines you have to follow. And then now you are called a good person. There is a certain way you are supposed to talk. And there are certain things within wherever you are that you are not supposed to expose. And sometimes they carry a death sentence. Expose this, expose that, we shall follow you. It may not be open. We shall kill you secretly. So, shut your mouth. Whatever you see here, ends here. Whatever happens out there, we are the good people. And so it has been going on for ages. Occasionally, it happened with somebody who came to teach the way. It's called Jesus. And what he taught was radical. Yes. He taught things that people at that time would not believe. And others thought he was going to change the system of that time. And historically we cannot prove because now some records are not kept. But there's an agreement, you'll come to a place of a wizard called Yesu and things like that. But there was a movement, a belief, a system on following the real truth. What's life? What's this? And what's that? But there was a set down system of belief that if you had to go against it, then it meant your life was in peril. That is what has kept people away from talking the truth. In most cases, we have been living a lie. And the question that you are always told, those who came before you, you think they were stupid, you are the clever one who can see. If they saw and they kept quiet, please see and keep quiet. This is the system. When things like enslavement of the mind, enslavement of the systems, enslavement of people's rights, enslavement of equalities is happening, and you try to talk about it, You are told no. You think you are the only just one? These people around know there is justice, there's equity, there's everything. Who are you to come and purport that you are talking about these things? And sure, there are movements, there are organizations, there are groups that purport to say the very things you are saying. Maybe it's human rights, they are there, but they are preaching water and drinking wine. If it's corruption, you find organizations, entities, and everything set in the, but they lead in the corruption itself. So it becomes a problem because the society will reject you. The society will expel you from their presence. And worse, they may kill you or deprive you of every source of livelihood and everything. Become a laughingstock. You become everything bad that can be imagined in the society because you have dared touch on the truth. I know whatever I've been talking about has deeply angered many, has deeply set people against me because others are saying I have interfered with their source of livelihood. Know the truth. If you set these things this way, where shall we get money from? So tell them this lie that has been going there, let it be the truth. Please maintain the systems as they have been. Because any interference is going to interfere with systems that benefit us. So why don't you keep quiet? You think you are cleverer than all these people? You think you are more learned than all these people? That is what has been happening to us. I was wondering, Christianity came from Europe? When I was a young child and we would go home, first I started growing, where I am, my ancestral home, which is not very far from this town. I told you I cannot be able to go there freely because of whatever is happening. There were missionaries from America when we were small. And Christianity to us came from America. But there were people from England who would also come and preach Christianity. And of course, there were people, Catholics, when I stayed at my mother's birthplace, there was also Catholic going on. And there were also priests and whatever from there. Then I was wondering, why is it that these people are preaching religion to us? And religion seems to be spiraling downwards in their countries. And we were totally convinced, you are the good people. Believe everything the way it is. You are the good people. I remembered a writer from here. God rest his peace. His name was Ngugi wa Thiong'o. Ngugi wa Thiong'o had controversies with people, even here. But he would tell the truth. He would tell the truth. And that's why now I realize that the people, the so-called heathen people we were calling heathen, we were calling whatever, managed to get some liberal space, and many of them were able to see the truth, talk the truth. They're living according to what they see as the truth. If you don't want to get tied there, I'm not saying that these things are not happening there. To your surprise, Kenyans, those who say that polygamy and everything is bad and all that, there are groups of American, and those who say white is superior, or black is inferior, or black is superior, whatever. There are groups of white Americans who believe in Christianity, in America. I can't remember the state itself, but from my findings, and they are polygamists, and they live in the past. All their things are fixed there. It could not happen like that. The book says so. It can. That is how they live. So we are not the only ones who have been suffered from mental slavery. Try to find out in the internet. You will find a polygamist group of American Christians, very strict in most their children. Many of them are not learned, and even their children flee from the place. Those who get from that place do not want to go back again, because they have been enslaved also. That's why we could not be able to see. And that's why in most places we are not able to see. Because if the truth goes against what they say is the truth, you are in trouble. You are in trouble. You can even die. If you are doing businesses, if you are doing work, you will be stopped from working. If you are doing things that interact with people, you are stopped from doing that. A bad example. And it's publicly announced. Do not associate with that one. It's a bad example. That is a rotten egg, a rotten tomato in the society. So this is a time that I call you to stand for the truth, to stand for the rights. Do not conform to what society says you should conform. Conform to the truth. I was wondering why there was a failure in religious systems in America, in Europe, and in other places. But somebody had not, I think some have the idea of faith, which is a very important thing. Me, I am stressing on faith. Do not lose faith in God. Do not lose faith in yourself. Do not lose faith in the visitations. But do not be enslaved by what has been going on. Do not live life because they say so. Do not be afraid to voice what you see in the things that have got evidences. And you are not even the one who wrote them. They were there in the past. They have been there. They are hidden. When you are asked why are they not, these ones are not inspired. The others are not known. Those ones are. But you know, even the Bible, all the authors that we read are not known because it was written 500 years. It's people who took names, Matthew, whoever, but it's not known if it's Matthew who wrote. Because the present Bibles we have purportedly were written 500 years after the death of Christ. So even the disciples had died. Are you seeing? And many other religious books. So, follow the visitations. Follow the truth that you can see, please. Don't let, and do not agree with being blinded mentally, physically, or being brainwashed. And that's why Jesus would always say, you are the temple. Your faith has healed you. Your faith. Your faith. Your faith. I'm talking about your faith. And I'm talking about your truth. All the other things that you are given to conform, so all that you are called, if they don't go as per the truth, go against the grain. I'm not calling for rebellion, but I'm calling for following of the truth. Please, in your mental system, in your religious system, in your society system, know that truth will always prevail. Do not live by lies that enslave you physically, enslave you materially, and enslave your thinking. That is why it was difficult for the truth to break through in the past. That's my take for now.